very, very special evening. We're all in for a real treat tonight. At the 19th Miami Book Fair. It's been 19 years since Miami-Dade Community College has been putting on this book fair, and I'd like to have I'd like all of you to join me in giving Miami-Dade Community College a huge round of applause. This could not happen, it would not happen without their support. And it takes a lot of support to put on the Miami Book Fair. And the Board of Directors is very happy to report that we have a growing Friends association, the Friends of the Miami Book Fair. In fact, out in front of the auditorium there are people from the Friends group who are more than happy and willing to sign you guys up who are not friends. I know you're all a friend at a book fair, but we'd like you to demonstrate that friendship by formally becoming part of the Friends. And you can do that very easily just by signing up outside. We'd love to have you do that as well. Also, as you know, as usually happens in these events, there will be an autographing following the end of the event, and that'll happen off to my right, and there are books for sale off to my left. Also, during the Q&A period, there are also mics in the aisles, so I hope you'll use them so everyone can hear your question. Tonight, it's my honor and privilege to welcome someone who's been a friend of the Miami Book Fair and an active participant for many, many, many years since the fair has begun. She is the Academic Dean and Student Support Services at Homestead campus of Miami-Dade. And her name is Joyce Crawford Martinez. Please welcome her.
Good evening. I'm grateful for the opportunity to introduce Miss Nikki Giovanni. But I can't introduce Nikki Giovanni. Why, she was the one who captured every fly girl wannabe spirit in ego tripping. So hip, even my errors are correct. I'm so perfect, so divine, you know the word, so ethereal, so surreal. I can't be comprehended, except by my permission, as we double-dashed on down the sideway. She took her art and wrapped it around thoughts that children could embrace. Spin a soft black song, vacation time. The sun is so quiet. I can't introduce Nikki Giovanni. She took my history, your history, our history, and wove it into poetry with its own cadence, explaining why Lot's wife is the product of a Morton company. Black feeling, black talk, black judgment, recreation, harvest, grandmothers. Racism 101. You'd think I'd be able to do this since I've been to college. But when dealing with Nikki, it's like the old man walking down the street said, "Girl, these hands seem more than all them books in the institute." Or the old woman on the porch, "Sister, my feet seem more than your eyes ever gonna read. Better come over here and study these feet." Gemini, my house, the women and the men. I can't introduce Nikki Giovanni. I thought I caught up with her in Those Who Ride the Night Winds, but she's a gazelle, so swift, I can't catch her. Sacred cows and other edibles, cotton candy on a rainy day, love poems. Speaking of love poems, I can't introduce Nikki Giovanni, because she expressed love for my man the way I wanted to. I love you because the earth turns round the sun. I love you because I don't want it any other way. I love you because it's been so good for so long. For that reason alone, I'm not introducing an award-winning, widely read, sweet inspiration, voice of the people, best-selling print and audio poet, author, essayist, woman of the year, teacher, mother, and my personal favorite, who took her blues for all the changes and packed them away, and is now quilting the Black-Eyed Pea. I can't introduce her, so she should just come on up here and do her thing.
meet you. And if we don't, nobody should. And that includes, no, I'm sick of the BCS, but this is not Nikki's night to discuss that. No, they cheat. Every time you turn around, it's a Nebraska, Oklahoma. You get so sick of that, you know. And we got a good, the SEC is good, and they can't take that away from somebody. Say, I can't be here for you, I don't care about that. I get sick of people cheating because they're just boys. They're playing a game, and they're making a lot of money for somebody. They're not making it for themselves, and that's the truth. Somebody said, well, Nikki, they get an education. If you believe that, I got a bridge to sell you. I just thought since I was here that I would mention that because, no, Miami gets screwed too. You get sick of it. You have to hear so much about Florida State and Bobby Bowden is, you know, not my idea of anything. So, and if you can't do it, it's not personal. I'm just dealing with it as a football player. But do me a favor. I know where I am, and I really get crossed. We're playing West Virginia right now, and we've been on the losing streak. And I wonder if, you know, we here in this room might just give a shout out like, go Hokies. Just, would you mind? Because you never have to do it again. You see what I'm saying? 1, 2, 3, go! Now, if they win, we owe you. Speaking of my new book, I'm in love with my new book for a lot of reasons. Number one, I'm a space freak. And I think of all of the things that my tax dollars do, my very favorite, I'm honest about it, is space. I know that it's so important. And a couple of years ago, I got a call from NASA. And in all fairness, I have always prided myself on knowing my moment. I still hope I always do, because people get confused. And they think that their moment is not their moment, that they get crazy and everybody gets upset. I know that NASA did not have any idea who I am or what I do. But it was February, and I know somebody said, it's February, we need a Negro. And I know it. And they went to their, you know, in file. And somebody said, you know, well, Giovanni, let's try that. You know, they didn't have a clue. I'm sure somebody said, well, what does he do? You know, it's one of those kind of things. But they called my office and said, you know, would Nikki Giovanni like to come and speak for Black History Month at NASA? And I was delighted. The girl lady who handles my calendar is like, wow, NASA, because she knows I'm a space freak, and I was so excited. And so I did. I prepared, and I got dressed, and I went. And I do know this, and I'll share this just in case some of you are not aware of it. In all fairness to the astronauts and everything, NASA is still a political entity. And so, some of you probably know NASA. and I got total respect. But you know, when you're talking to politicians, you have to talk slow, and you only give them... I know you know that. And you can only give them one idea, because if you give them two, they'll pit it against each other and come up with the worst possible solution. So I said how delighted I am to be with NASA, to have been invited. I said that I'm a big fan of the space program. And everybody clapped. You know how they smile? They're like, big fan of the space program. And I said, I think that the most important thing facing Earth, the whole planet really, is the Mars probe. And I got a big hand. I mean, it was all they could do to sit in their seats like, wow, she's in favor of the Mars probe. And I said, and I know the problem with the Mars probe. And so everybody just like quiet, like how she know. And I said, the problem, because it is. The problem with the Mars probe is not do we have the ability to go to Mars and come back. We do. The problem is, if what we send to Mars, because it's a 3-year trip, will be what we get back. We know that human beings don't do well in unknown places, and so there's this confusion. They are running tests to see how they can teach people to tolerate these 3 years, right? And they sort of, And I said, because it's true, the trip to Mars can only be understood through Middle Passage. That's what the general said. What did she say? And the reason that I said that, of course, is that Middle Passage is the only time that human beings have been in a position that they did not know where they were going or what would wait them. But they had to make a decision in the middle of that ocean who they were going to be and how they were going to handle it. In other words, there will be no future of planet Earth without the history of my people. And I mentioned that. Middle Passage, people forget that there was no such thing as a group of slaves. There were free Africans that had to be made into slaves. Now people will say they didn't really know what was going to happen, but they had a good idea. Because usually people that chain you, that whip you, that kill the old people, and throw the babies on the wayside because they make too much noise are probably not looking out for your better interest. So they understood that something really ugly is going on. And as they took them from the interior and took them to the edge of the continent and put them in small boats to row them out to bigger boats, everybody realized something not good is happening here. It's not hard. As they sailed away, though, there could still be hope. They could look back and see the land. They could see the green. They could see the trees. They could say, okay, we are not going so far. We will be able to get home. We sing a song about that. Fare thee well, if ever I do get home. All these songs are going to come into it. So they could look. They sailed on for another week or so, and they could look back, and they could see the clouds above the continent, because as we all know here in Miami, especially clouds above land are different from clouds above water. They could say, okay, we still know where we're going. But they reached a point in the middle of that ocean where they not only could not look back, they had no idea which way back might be. And it was at that point, because I'm such a fan of the black woman, I know it was a black woman. I know it was. It was at that point that moan, that worried moan your grandmother does, that thing she does with her hand. And she raised that moan because they had been deliberately separated by languages. She raised that moan, but that moan was answered. And what they were saying was, whatever it is, we will not only see it through, we will see it through humanely. I told Jesus it would be all right if he changed my name, and he told me I would go hungry. All of these songs are what's going to get us over. Mars is the same thing. When they pull off from Cape Canaveral, when they go up, you saw it a couple of weeks ago, Delray Beach, you can look down and see that all the astronauts like Houston, we got liftoff. Everybody's happy. And as they go on out, they can see the blue planet. And as they go further out, they can see the hint of blue. But they will reach a point on the probe to Mars where they will not only not be able to look back, they won't know which way back is. And it's at that point that NASA needs to call black Americans and say, how do y'all do that? It's a wonderful thing to be a black American. I support it. I think it's a good idea. If you're not busy, I recommend it. I wrote a poem called Quilting the Black-Eyed Pea. We're going to Mars. We're going to Mars for the same reason Marco Polo rocketed to China, for the same reason Columbus trimmed his sails on a dream of spices, for the very same reason Shackleton was enchanted with penguins, for the reason we fall in love. It's the only adventure. We're going to Mars because Perry couldn't go to the North Pole without Matthew Henson, because Chicago couldn't be a city without John Baptiste du Sable, because George Washington Carver and his peanut were the right partners for Booker T. It's a life-seeking thing. We're going to Mars because whatever is wrong with us will not get right with us, so we journey forth, carrying the same baggage, but every now and then leaving one little bitty thing behind. Maybe drop torturing hunchbacks here, maybe drop lynching Billy Budd there, maybe not whipping Uncle Tom to death, maybe resisting global war. One day looking for prejudice to slip, one day looking for hatred to tumble by the wayside, one day maybe the whole community will no longer be vested in who sleeps with whom. Maybe one day the Jewish community will be at rest, the Christian community will be content, the Muslim community will be at peace, and all the rest of us will get great meals at holy days and learn new songs and sing in harmony. We're going to Mars because it gives us a reason to change. If Mars came here, it would be ugly. Nations would band together and hunt down and kill Martians. And being... And being the stupid, undeserving life forms that we are, we would also hunt down and kill what would be termed Martian sympathizers. As if the fugitive slave law wasn't bad enough then, as if the so-called war on terrorism isn't pitiful now. And when do we learn? And what does it take to teach us? Things cannot be what we want, when we want, as we want. Other people have ideas and inputs, and why won't they leave right down alone? The future is ours to take. We're going to Mars because we have the hardware to do it. We have the rockets and the fuel and the money and the stuff. And the only reason NASA is holding back is they don't know if what they send out will be what they get back. So let me slow this down. Mars is 1 year of travel to get there, plus 1 year of living on Mars, plus 1 year to return to Earth equals 3 years of Earthlings being in a tight space, going to an unknown place with an unsure welcome awaiting them. Tired muscles, unknown and unusual foods, harsh conditions, and no known landmarks to keep them human. Only a hope and a prayer that they will be shadowed beneath a benign hand. And there is no historical precedent for that except this. The trip to Mars can only be understood through black Americans, I say. The trip to Mars can only be understood through black Americans. The people who were captured and enslaved immediately recognized the men who chained and whipped them and herded them into ships so tightly packed there was no room to turn, no privacy to respect, no tears to fall without landing on another, were not kind and gentle and concerned for the state of their souls, no. The men with whips and chains were understood to be killers, feared to be cannibals, known to be sexual predators. The captured knew they were in trouble in an unknown place without communicative abilities, with a violent and capricious species. But they could look out and still see signs of home. They could still smell the sweetness in the air. They could see the clouds floating above the land they loved. But there reached a point where the captured could not only not look back, they had no idea which way back might be. There was nothing in the middle of the deep blue water to indicate which way home might be. And it was that moment when a decision had to be made. Do they continue forward with a resolve to see this thing through, or do they embrace the waters and find another world? In the belly of a ship, a moan was heard, and someone picked up that moan, and a song was raised, and that song would offer comfort and hope and tell the story. When we go to Mars, it's the same thing. It's middle passage. When the rocket red glares, the astronauts will be able to see themselves pull away from Earth. As the ship goes deeper, they will see a sparkle of blue. And then one day, not only will they not see Earth, they won't know which way to look. And that's why NASA needs to call Black America. They need to ask us, how did you calm your fears? How were you able to decide you were human, even when everything said you were not? How did you find the comfort in the face of the improbable to make the world you came to your world? How was your soul able to look back and wonder? And we will tell them what to do. To successfully go to Mars and back, you will need a song. Take some Billie Holiday for the sad days, and some Charlie Parker for the happy ones. But always keep at least one good spiritual for comfort. You will need a slice or two of meatloaf. And if you can manage it, some fried chicken in a shoebox. With a nice, moist lemon pound cake. A bottle of beer, because no one should go that far without a beer, and maybe a six-pack, so that if there is life on Mars, you can share. Popcorn for the celebration when you land, while you wait on your land legs to kick in. And as you climb down the ladder from your spaceship to the Martian surface, look to your left, and there you'll see a smiling community quilting a black-eyed pea, watching you descend. The Smithsonian is having, and I think it either was just recently here in Miami, is having a retrospective on Martin Luther King. It's 35 years since Martin has died. It is here. Yeah, I was going to say, I thought it should be. No, I'm at a poetry reading. No, it's okay. No, you didn't disturb me. I keep saying I had my mother call me one time, just so people know how it is. Like, no, Mom, no, it's okay. Actually, the phone doesn't bother me, but it bothers everybody else. So do us all a favor, either turn it off, put it on stun for God's sake. It's not stun, what is it? I am not trying to cap on whoever's phone this was ring, but you know what? I don't understand the importance. I mean, nowadays you go to the grocery store, somebody's on the phone, and you go to the pharmacy, somebody's going into surgery. What is it? You know, what is it? Never mind. The Smithsonian is having an exhibit. And it was a couple years ago, and I want you to get all the poems I write just got somebody called. But the Smithsonian, no, I think of some of my own. But the Smithsonian called, and as you probably do know, in the spirit of Martin is a labor of love. We all contributed. And I thought, it was never any question in my mind when they called and said, we're doing a retrospective, would you like to do something? I had poems on Martin because I've been writing, 35 years, something like that now. So I had poems, but then I thought about it, well, Martin is working another poem. Let me try to do something else. And I'm saying this because I know we're here, and not only books fair, and not only are we book lovers, but some of us write. And I think sometimes you have to really just, kind of challenge yourself. So I think what kind of time do I have? And I did want to write another poem because I hope, this time 2-3 years from now, I'll be writing yet another poem. And one of the things that has interested me, of course, about Martin, and we can kind of forget that too, is that Martin Luther King Jr. was never on a public bus until the end of the Montgomery bus boycott. Because Daddy King, people don't realize that. People thought he was fighting for the bus because he needed. He didn't. Daddy King bought all 3 of his children, A.D., Bernice, and Martin, cars. Because he didn't want some fool of a bus driver to hurt his children's feelings, break their spirit or something. But Martin knew that everybody didn't have a daddy to buy him a car, so he fought a fight because it was the right thing to do. You have to worry about coughing, though. You can cough. Because he thought it was the right thing to do. Every year, of course, on January 15th now, because we have the birthday, we have kids that come up and recite the speech that is really erroneously called the I Have a Dream speech. It really isn't. It's the we are here to cash a check speech. It's a big difference because that's what's going to happen. I've been wanting to see the rappers take up that speech to bring it up to date, like Ja Rule or somebody like that. We are here to cash a check, and so that the kids can see where Martin fits, that it's that he's a part of the modern world. I think that's important. We know if Martin was with us right now because he would not be an old man. We know that Martin would have braids. Yeah, because he always did want to be hip, Martin. Some of you knew Martin, that he always wanted to be, with it. And he would have had braids because, one, it's the right thing to have. Everybody would because the kids call him Doc. It's like, Doc, you got to have braids. I don't think we could get Martin, to be honest, to go blonde. Though going blonde would be good, but I don't think he's ready for that step, but he would definitely have that. And of course he has to have a tattoo, because everybody has to have a tattoo. I, of course, have a tattoo, and mine says Thug Life. I got it because they murdered Tupac Shakur, and I thought the old ladies have to pony up, we have to say something. I'm sure Martin would have something a little more responsible, Freedom Now, vote, something else, but he had to have a tattoo, what I'm saying? These things are so important. As you know, the first person to be arrested on civil disobedience in America, of course, was Henry David Thoreau. And Thoreau had a good friend, Ralph Emerson. And Emerson did, I suppose, what he would call his Christian duty. He went to see Thoreau because Thoreau was in jail, and Emerson called him David. So it's like, David, what are you doing here? And of course Thoreau said, Ralph, what are you doing out? And no, it's quite the right thing to do. And of course, Martin is going to get a letter when he takes his campaign into Birmingham, because all of the ministers in Birmingham are going to say to him, what are you doing troubling these waters? And Martin's going to answer with a letter from Birmingham City Jail, how come you're not here with me? How can you call yourself a Christian and not be? I wrote a poem for Martin Luther King Jr. in the spirit of Martin, which is bringing him into his time. This is a sacred poem. Blood has been shed to consecrate it. Wash your hands, remove your shoes, bow your head. I have a dream. That was a magical time. Hi-ho, silver away. Oh, Cisco, oh, Pancho, here I come to save the day. I want the world to see what they did to my boy. No, I'm not going to move. If we are wrong, then the Constitution of the United States is wrong. Montgomery, Birmingham, Selma, 4 little girls. Constant threats, constant harassment, constant fear. SCLC, Ralph and Martin, Father Knows Best, Leave It to Beaver, Ed Sullivan. How long? Not long. But what, Mr. Thoreau said to Mr. Emerson, are you doing out? This is a letter from Birmingham City Jail. This is a eulogy for Albany. This is a water hose for Anniston. This is a thank you to Diane Nash. This is a flag for James Farmer. This is a how can I make it without you to Ella Baker. This is for the red clay of Georgia that yielded black men of courage, black men of vision, black men of hopes, bent over cotton or sweet potatoes or pool tables and baseball diamonds, playing for a chance to live free and breathe easy and have enough money to take care of the folks they love. This is why we can't wait. That swirling Mississippi wind, the Alabama pine, that Tennessee dust defiling the clothes the women washed, those hot winds the lemonade couldn't cool, that let the women know we too must overcome. This is for Fannie Lou Hamer, Joanne Robinson, Septima Clark, Daisy Bates, all the women who said, baby, 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 I know you didn't mean to lose your job. I know you didn't mean to gamble the rent money. I know you didn't mean to hit me. I know the Lord is going to make a way. I know I'm leaning on the everlasting arms. How much pressure does the earth exert on carbon to make a diamond? How long does the soil push against the flesh, molding the moan that becomes a cry that bursts forth, crystalline, unbreakable, priceless, incomparable Martin. I made my vow to the Lord that I never would turn back. How much pressure do the sins of the world press against the heart of a man who becomes the voice of his people? He should have had a tattoo, Freedom Now or something like that. Should have braided his hair, carried his pool cue in a mahogany case, wafted that wonderful lad over a plate of skillet fried chicken, drop biscuits, dandelion greens on the side. This is a sacred poem. Open your arms, turn your palms up, feel the spirit of greatness, and be redeemed. It's been 7 years now since I had a diagnosis of lung cancer. I've been trying to work on a book, and the book is called, or it's going to be called, A Deer in Headlights, because I did probably what I guess everybody does when you get diagnosed and somebody says you have cancer. I call my lawyer. And I didn't want my son to lose his mother and whatever possible, support he would be having. So I called Gloria, and she said, how do you feel? And I said, I feel like a deer in headlights. And she said, move. And it was so clear, it was just like move. And so I'm very fortunate. I've been working on this book, and probably 90% of the problem is that I can't find the language for cancer. And in America, all of our language is we fight things, So you see people standing in front of you, I'm fighting cancer. What kind of sense does that make? You damn fool. If you know anything about cancer, you know you can't fight it because you didn't even know when it came. You don't fight it. I've been trying to find the language that allows me to say to it what I want to do, and it's true. I don't want to fight it. I don't want to defeat it. I want to live with it. I want to live with it another 30, 35, 40 years, something that we can all, live with. And then you go away, because anything else makes you crazy. You're up there fighting something you don't have any clue what it is. And human beings need to get over that, because everything that happens in the world, we cannot fight, and in fighting we are not necessarily going to be in better shape. That's a whole other discussion. I just thought I'd mention that. But I had this tumor. And what had happened to me, and I'll just share that, but what had happened is that I do teach at Tech, and Tech is up on the hills, and so I'm walking up to, I teach in Williams, and I'm walking up the steps, and I'm out of breath. And by the time I get to the classroom, I'm like, and so I'm saying to the students, I think I must be in bad shape, and they're like, yeah, you're in bad shape, because they always like to tease me. And then you finally get there, and you're sweating, and I'm saying, is it hot in here? And they're all laughing at me. And I think they're right, because they like to tease me, so it's like, no, something's wrong. So I went to my family doctor. I said, I can't breathe. I do the least little thing, and I'm sweating. I can't handle it. And he did what doctors do. I grew up. I'm 59. I wanted a shot. Something is wrong with me. People don't give you shots anymore. You go in there, you got a cold. They want you to take medicine. I don't want to take medicine. I want a shot. And then you're over it. and it's like, I want a shot. And Kenneth's like, no, because no matter what you say, they want to take your blood pressure, right? And your weight. And so Kenneth is like, no, your blood pressure is too high, and I'm going to give you pills. And I'm like, I don't want pills. It's like, take the pills. I said, okay. And so I took the pills, but like a week later, it's not doing me any good. And I come back. And I said, Kenneth, I don't think this is working. And, I'm black and he's not. And so he's looking at me. I'm not going to say he's pressed because he's a nice guy and stuff. But his next solution is, he didn't say it like, you black, you've eaten too much salt. But it's like, well, that's what he's thinking. And so he's like, cut down on your salt. I said, Kenneth, I don't even eat, potato chips. I don't do salt like that. And he said, well, take this pill and take it twice a day, and this is going to work. And thank God he's given it to me, because if I had bought it, I would be very upset. But I'm taking it, and it's like 2 weeks later, I'm back, and I'm saying, Kenneth, something is wrong. Now, I've done it your way, and I'm going to do it my way. He said, I'll x-ray your chest. I said, for what? And he said, because I want to see if maybe your heart's enlarged. I said, there's nothing wrong with my heart. He said, I'm doing this, So I go, and you hold that thing, and they x-ray your chest. Now, some of us are women in this room, so women know this. I don't know that men do or don't. But women know that tone that you get. Your girlfriend calls you and says, hey, girl, can I tell you something? You know you do not want to hear it. She knows you don't want to hear it, or she would have never approached you that way. And Kenneth had that, Nick, come here, let me show you something. I said, I don't want to see it. Because I didn't. Whatever it wasn't like. He said, it doesn't have to be as bad as you think. I said, oh, yes. It does, because I'm not lucky. Some people are. I'm really not. You know how some people like even do. They walk down the street, they find $100. Other people walk down the street, find a bill they thought they had. I'm not lucky. And that's true. The only time I ever won anything in my life, and I always laugh, but it's true. The only time I ever won anything, you know what I'm saying? Kroger's was opening a store in Cincinnati, where we live, right? And I had signed up. You go and you sign up. My name's Yolanda, and I had just signed up with Giovanni, not even thinking. My mother never shops, right? Her mother never did. Grandpapa did all the shopping, and Gus, my father, did all the shopping, So I know I'm in good shape. I signed up for this thing, right? My mother, who never, ever goes to Kroger's for anything, even now doesn't, right? She goes to Kroger's that day. They say, why Giovanni won. She toddles over, knowing that she didn't sign up for it. She knew that. And she went to the manager, said, why Giovanni. She takes my prize and go home. I come to the store later that afternoon. I see it. I'm so excited. Oh, great. This is great. And I go to the manager. I say, I'm YG. I said, no. Why Giovanni was in. I said, what did she win? She said, she won a loaf of bread. It wasn't that. It was that it was my prize. And she wouldn't give it to me. So I'm not lucky. I know. I'm not. I know that this thing is cancerous, and I know it's not a good idea. So I said, well, Kenneth, you're just a family doctor. I mean, I like him, I still do. But you're just a family doctor, find me a surgeon. And he said, well, we don't know, if it's operable. And I said, Kenneth, it's operable because if I have to take cuticle scissors and stand here, it's got to come out because, obviously it's misbehaving. And I don't want to try to talk to it. Let's take this out. Let's see if we can talk to the little cells running around, So we made an appointment for me to go to see my doctor, to see a surgeon. But my lawyer is in Cincinnati, and so Gloria called me. I said, what do you say? And I was saying, this is what it is. And she said, why don't you come to Cincinnati and get a second opinion? I said, well, that makes sense, because you should always have a second opinion. And you should have a second opinion away from the person that gave you the first opinion, by the way. So we drove over to Cincinnati, and the guy who did, his name is Creighton Wright. And for those of you who are in the Gulf War, you know Creighton because almost all the operations, he's the one directing them. And so Creighton is like looking at the x-ray and stuff. He said, wow, this is a nice tumor, Nikki. I'm saying, Creighton, he said, no, we can't really tell much about it. He said, now, and this is his thing. He said, here's the tumor. He said, here's the bones. Now, it could be resting on it, or it could be, some distance from it. So why don't you let me take it out? And I said, well, I have an appointment in Roanoke. I have a good doctor. You know who I have. And he said, well, I'm better. He said, I've known you longer. This guy didn't really know you. And he said, I seldom get good tumors to work on. You're really old. Let me take it out. And he had me laughing. It's like, please, And I'm saying, well, Creighton, you're the head of Jewish Hospital. And, I really don't think I should wait. I don't think I should put another 2 or 3 weeks in waiting on you. I recognize your expertise, but I don't think so. He said, well, 10 o'clock in the morning do? I said, 10 o'clock in the morning is good. He said, then it's my tumor? I said, it's your tumor, Creighton. So He did. And they do a thing, for some of you who have not had a lung operation, they have to go in on one set of rib, on a rib, so they cut that. And as he said later, you know, and then I noticed two that looked funny, so I took them. I said, Craig, you could have taken the spine, because the spine is just an idea, you know what I'm saying? It's a metaphor. You take everything that you want. Now, I'm in the hospital in the middle of February, and it is snowing outside. I'm in Cincinnati, Ohio. My mother's friends are there, but I don't have anybody with me. And my HMO that I have been paying what they asked me to pay without complaint is now telling the hospital, she's been in the hospital for a week. These operations shouldn't take any more than 3 to 4 days, and so we're not going to pay anymore, which I think is filthy. Any of you that work for an HMO, please don't tell me, because I will hate you, and this is not why we came together today. You just keep looking at me. But I remember, because I'm floating in and out, because your blood pressure is up and you're about to die, and I'm floating in and out, and Gloria, who was a wonderful, crazy woman, nobody knew that Gloria was crazy. I did it, but nobody else. And I remember Gloria bending over, and she said to me, don't worry, if you hear any rumors about you leaving the hospital, don't worry. And I just sort of remember that in my mind. But Gloria went and called the HMO, and she said, I'm Gloria Haffer. I represent Nikki Giovanni. She's been my client, which is, you know, for like, we've been together 25 years at that point. And she said, I just wanted you to know that I know where you live. She said, I know where your children go to school. I know what you call your dog. And we want Nikki in the hospital because she's sick. And she's right. Of course, it really worried the woman because she didn't know Gloria's crazy and Gloria was. She didn't know the woman was going to sue her or put her in. It didn't matter. I said in the hospital, you know, but it's a damn shame that we live in a country that you have to have a crazy lawyer in order to have adequate medical help. That is so much. But I stayed in the hospital, and as I should have, because the middle of February, you may as well have shot me. It's put me out. There'd been no way to defend myself. And I said it to my kids now, because they come into class and they're sniffing. And I said, is that a cold? Or if you got a drug habit, stay, but if that's a cold, you have to leave. And it's like, well, there's not much of a cold. No, it's more of a cold than I want to be bothered. I'm coming here sniffing on people. And so you do that. At the end of February, they said, my doctor said, you know, if you can stay on your own for a week, you can go home. And I was really ready to go home. I am one of the best patients I know, by the way. I'm not one of those people that doesn't, I really like hospital. I cried when I left the hospital. Because everybody's so nice to you. The nurses come, how are you feeling today, sugar? Can I help you? And they rub your back. I mean, just wonderful people. And so I wanted to go home, but I really enjoyed being there with the nurse and stuff. And I couldn't, a friend of mine came and got me, and we drove home. Now, and this is where we get into a poem. Because I know you know, well, what is she doing? Well, I just wanted to make a point. But see, now what it is I'm at home. My mother lives down the street from me, some of you know. Now my mother is fixing breakfast for me, and she's bringing it in bed. And it took me a minute to think it through, and I thought, I'm not sick. Because whatever else cancer is, you're not sick. You have cancer. It's like having a stroke. If you have a stroke, you're not sick. You have a stroke. And so there's the life before and the life after. So I said to Mommy, I can't let you keep bringing me breakfast and lunch and dinner and every day. I have to get up. And she was like, well, you're not feeling well. I said, I have to. When am I going to feel better? I have to get up. And so then you're putting your feet, some of you have had major operations, so you know where we were going. I put my feet on the floor and you just break out into this sweat. I mean, just break out into this sweat. And then you finally make it to the bathroom and you brush your teeth. And that's my morning chore. And then you sit down I have a couch, my grandmother's couch actually is in my bedroom. And I would sit on the couch to catch my breath. And then I would make it into the kitchen. And I would have breakfast, and I'd be so proud of myself. And some of you did that, you know how proud you are, you finally fed yourself. Now, some of us in this room are not black, and I need to share something. Because those of us who are black know. In every black woman's home, there is a room that's called the living room. But nobody lives in it. I know the black women know. You go into the living room on Saturday morning and you dust it. And you come right back out. That's it. That is exactly it. Unless you get dead, unless you get married, you don't use the living room. But having worked so hard to finally get up, I decided I would sit in my living room. Now my mother is on the phone to her friends because she is extremely upset. And she's saying to her, I can actually hear, Nikki's dying. And they're like, well, why did you say that? You know, what makes you think she's dying? She's sitting in the living room. So everybody understands But this is my miracle. As I'm sitting there, it's spring, and there's a drain pipe, and I noticed two birds. And the birds were, I was like, wow, I wonder if they were robins, of course. The robins are going to build a nest. And so I would eat my dinner and go back. But then the next morning, I was like, wow, I wonder what my birds are doing. It's so human, because they weren't my birds. I'm sure the birds were saying, I wonder how our human is coming along. Because they were sure doing more for me than I was doing for them. But they did. They built a nest. And for anybody that thinks that birds pass those eggs easily, you never saw Mother Robin pass an egg. I got to tell you, I have such respect for Father Robin because he is everybody's idea of what a man should be. He's right there with her the whole way, and he's bringing, blueberries to her and little slugs and things. And, you could see him going, breathe, baby, No, just wonderful. Then the eggs come, and he'll sit on the eggs while she goes and takes the bath. And so, just wonderful. And it was such a revelation. I know that a great part of my healing was watching the birds, and then the little eggs hatch, and then they start to fly, and then they all flew, and I was so glad, because I just couldn't have handled something that happened to one of those birds. I just really couldn't. And it was so wonderful to see it, and it was such a healing process. In reading about the birds, I'm not still like an expert, but I wanted to read up to see what I could do to maybe give something back. I read that the biggest enemy, which many of you know, of baby birds, of course, are ants. Because ants climb up anything, the tree, the drain pipe, or anything. And I think I'm a nice person, but I don't want anybody to think I'm nice than I think I am. I really hate ants. I really do. It's always a pleasure to stomp on them, or, I prefer termites to ants. Because at least the termites won't eat the baby birds. So I called Virginia Tech, because that's what you do when you have a question and you live in Blacksburg. And I said, hi, Nikki Giovanni in the English department, and I've got these birds, and I want to know what I can do to protect them from the ants, because we live in a high ant area, as you probably grew up in the mountain there. And they said, Dr. Giovanni, we don't have any idea. And I said, well, yeah, you do, because you're Virginia Tech, and when I go to your website, you say you know everything. That's what they say. So if you know everything, I want to know what to do about baby birds with these damn ants, and call me back, please. They just were lazy, because they knew. I get a call back in 2 days, and I share this because maybe this is helpful. So if I have done nothing else today, in order to help your baby birds, whether it's a tree, drain pipe, anything else, an ordinary flea collar that you buy for your dog, you pop it out, wrap it around. The ants will not crawl over it. It does not affect the birds. You always try to do something positive. I wrote a poem. This poem is actually about the back of my house, because I hadn't gotten back there at that particular point. And I wrote this poem. My friend says it's a cancer poem. A robin's nest in snow. Outside the window of my den, where I sit, usually counting clouds or airplanes or chipmunks scurrying by, on a snowy day, I still see the nest through the flurries. Snowflakes are so delicate. They melt on your tongue, sit proudly on your shoulders, tangle themselves in your braids. Last spring, I didn't know a bird had made a home in my river birch. There was activity, but I thought it was the crepe myrtle. Only when the tree exhaled did the life reveal itself. The snow piled up neatly, filling the crevice, hopefully destroying the viruses and bacteria that can attack the young, still blind robins. And I, a survivor of lung cancer, nestle hope in my heart that no harm will remain when spring and birds return. Vibe magazine. And it's so funny because I used to babysit Eric Wilkerton, who is now the editor of Vibe, right? And they said, what one thing don't people know about you? And the answer is that I'm doing. I was told to be quick so that there would be time for questions. Otherwise, I could read for the next 5 hours. So that's why,
Okay, and it's a question about a book I read that I wonder if you have read called The Hairstones, A Story in Black and White. It's a story of white plantation owners and black slaves, and they're all called the Hairstones because they intermarriage. And I wondered if you had read it. I found it absolutely fascinating. And if you haven't, I suggest it.
Thank you. No, I teach a couple of the grandchildren and the great-grandchildren because they're all from Virginia. The Harrisons are from Virginia. Yeah. And they're from Nellis Cave, So, yeah, I haven't read the book, though. It's
okay, have a kids read.
I sure love to say it's I've been trying to go to Asia. I'm going to take because this is my dream trip. I want to go to Vietnam, to Thailand. What I want to do is take a freighter, though, to Hong Kong, right? And then I want to do it all by water. And I've got all of these books. If I don't do it soon, I'm going to have to go to Mars. Because I've got all of these books piled up when I take this freighter and go across the Pacific. Because I've sailed the Atlantic, I've never sailed the Pacific, and I thought, I really want to sail. And then, to me, it's the perfect way to see Vietnam because then you're not in anybody's way. A lot of times Americans go places and we expect hot water and hotel, all of the crap that Americans expect. And you're still an American even though you're embarrassed about it and stuff like that. And so you try to say to yourself, well, how can I go and be a good citizen? I thought the best way to go is go by water. Because then you can do that and then you come back and go to town and come back. It's just wonderful. And I have a vivid imagination, so I get teased about that a lot. But can you imagine in the days that you could have sailed Indonesia by your nose, by the pepper, by the nutmeg? What a loss. I know that there's been progress and stuff, but goddamn, what a loss. Now what you smell is oil that they've spilled somewhere because they've overloaded the tanker. That is so embarrassing and ugly. I just thought I'd mention that.
I have a question. Could you define for me what's your definition of literary significance?
She said, could I define my idea of literary significance? I suppose it would be literally significant, that which tells a story that makes sense that people can carry with them. What happens, and I don't know what you're alluding to at this point, so I'm not helpful on that because there's obviously a subcontext here that I don't know. But what happens is that you're a black kid and you want to read a black story and some white person says, oh, that's not significant. And you do get sick of that. That is so old. That was old in the 1800s. It's definitely old in the 21st century. And so you get that kind of thing. But what you're trying to do is use literature. If literature does not substitute for experience, then we as a species are doomed. Because every species will have to learn it by doing it. And that's stupid. That's the same way that parents spank children, that we put people in jail as if that was something new. I live in a state that executes the second most people in the United States, Texas being first, Virginia second, as if that's preventing something. What are you missing? We have been executing people since Jesus or before or after, however you want to look at it. So in 2,000 years, if this ain't working, it ain't going to work again. Why don't we go somewhere else? And the only thing about the future that I really like is that, I meant it when I said that. I love that. My favorite line in that poem is, if Mars came here, it would be ugly. And we all know that. If a Martian came right now, everybody's, oh my God, it's a Martian killer. Before you even say, hey, how you doing? Wants a pie? He wants a, whatever it is that Martians might want that would mellow them out. Find out first. But we keep doing the same old stuff as if it was new. I also like the line that says, because I am tired of that. Who sleeps with whom? You would think sex just recently was discovered. It is so tiresome. Everybody screws if they want to, and if they don't, they don't. But that's still their choice. And what you're really saying is, we would rather you didn't do dead people because that is so unattractive. And we think, well, it is. You just don't like to think about people screwing dead people. It's just really not good. And we don't think that you should screw children because I don't care what anybody says. No 14, 15, or for that matter, 16-year-old girl, no matter what we keep doing, has knowledge enough to consent. go find yourself somebody grown and screw them, since it's all in your head anyway, live a better life. And you get so sick of it. I'm just saying, that's tired too. What we do is we read books, because if you can't learn it from Little Red Riding Hood and the Three Little Pigs, you understand what I'm saying? And Billy Goat's Gruff, and one of my favorites, what's the name of the Wishing Gate? If you don't learn it from the books, we have to do it. And we can't do everything, so it makes us ugly and frightened. And what I don't understand today, November 20th, 2002, is how we ended up in America with a generation that's scared. I do not understand that. I do not understand that. There's no reason. The world is at our feet. We have obligations and responsibilities, and we have the possibility of creating another way of looking at the world. Why are the blacks and the whites and the Arabs and the Jews and the Gentiles and the Aryans, why are we all afraid of each other on this little teeny tiny planet? That if we don't learn to get along, how can we welcome anybody else? But there is life. NASA just did that too recently. You saw that, and I don't mean to give a lecture, but you saw that they finally said, they could have called me and saved that money. They finally said, in looking for life forms in space, we need to look for something other than water-based creatures. You go, lassie me. How long did it take you to figure that one out? We're the only people here with atmosphere. Other things are going to move differently. I'm always amazed. Of course, we have to be ready. And a part of what we have to do is calm that fear that says when something different comes, see, can you harm it? We have to find a way to stop that. So every day we have to confront something in our own selves that says, I'm not afraid. Of course you are, but we learned it from Debbie Carver. If I feel afraid, I was right there erect and whistle I'm happy too, and no one will suspect I'm afraid. I'm sorry I mentioned that. Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry, is it okay to go that way? Yes.
Hi, Ms. Giovanni. My name is Alita Stewart-White, and I'm a documentary filmmaker. And it was interesting about what you just said about us fearing each other. Right now, I'm working on a documentary from a black perspective as to what happened with the DC shootings with the snipers. And it's incredible because, in our own way, we're all prejudiced. When it was happening, the first thing I was thinking was crazy white man. Crazy white man in the military who's going around and he's shooting these people, angry white man. That's the first thing I thought. And when I eventually found out that it was two black, I can't really say men
I'm
because
sorry,
one was a man.
I'm not going to allow this to continue. First of all, we live in America where you are innocent until proven guilty.
Okay.
I think that's very, very key to all of this because there's a lot of prejudice going on. We got two black guys. Black guys get arrested when they don't floss.
Right.
Let alone when
Right. Okay, right.
run around with two things in there and two holes in it because I don't want to hear Virginia, which is embarrassing.
Exactly.
It has been fighting for, we want to execute. And then 10 years later, like we did with the wilding in Central Park, we'll find out, oh dear, we made a mistake.
Right. Okay.
So, no. We found out who was accused, we haven't found out who did it. We do not know that. And I do know this is me, Nikki, and so everybody get mad at me. I never, ever go against what makes sense to me. And it does not make sense to me that somebody from Tacoma, Washington, who had plenty of white people to kill, black people, anything else, going right down the coast, did not have to come across country to go find people to kill. I do not trust this government. I do not trust this FBI. I do not trust I want to see something. I want to see some evidence. They drove that car off without anybody opening it up. That was too much. I don't want to debate it. And that doesn't mean I'm trying to stop the debate. I want to hear from the accused.
Right.
And I'm tired of hearing from the accused friend. I was sitting in Washington. I'm talking about Uncle Tom. I was sitting in Washington. I thought, John was killing me. Can I have another pork chop boss? Police. Next question.
Hello, Ms. Giovanni. I'm here on behalf of the Miami Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority and my sister Anne. On behalf behalf of Dade County alumni, and I'd like all of our sisters who are here in the audience to stand, please.
Thank you.
We just want to welcome you to the Magic City, and we have some small tokens of appreciation to say thank you for all that you do to celebrate our culture.
We in Delta Sigma Theta, of course, thank America for joining us in mourning the passing of our beloved and great soror, Jean Noble. And Jean Noble is probably the one black woman that very few people know, but the civil rights movement without Soror Noble would have been an extremely different thing. She was president of Delta Sigma Theta at the time, and it was Jean who said, and we were 70,000, I share this only for the history of it, and because Jean's a beautiful person, she's from Albany, Georgia, who at the time said the 70,000, when the students were arrested in the sit-ins, it was Soror Noble who said the 70,000 women of Delta Sigma Theta were buying them out. And of course, when Delta did that, the Kappas and the Omegas and the Alphas and the AKs all said, oh yeah, we're going to bond them out too, which is exactly what should happen. And it was Soror Noble who, if I had never loved Jean, which I always did, Jean and Lily, my two favorite presidents of Delta Sigma Theta, but it was Soror Noble who got on the train in New York City and took a train to Little Rock, Arkansas, because Daisy Bates, who is a beautiful woman, we all know Daisy Bates, and Daisy Bates' house they had thrown bricks through her front window so much, she had like a 1950 FHA house. They had thrown bricks through the window so much that she no longer put glass up. There was glass on the floor. Soror Bates was, in fact, as you know, the leader of the Little Rock 10, which became Little Rock 9. And there was still glass on the floor. She was just being overwhelmed. And it was Jean that went and swept up the floor and helped Stella to cook food and brought the sorors into it. And then it was Jean who said to Daisy Bates, what can we do for you? Because nobody had said to Daisy, and Daisy, because Daisy's one of God's most beautiful people, Daisy said, I don't need it or anything or want anything. She said, but you know, the Little Rock 9 are not going to have a Christmas. Because these were poor kids. I don't think we realized how poor they were. But when the white kids would pour ketchup on their clothes and things like that, they didn't have alternatives. They'd go to Daisy and she had to wash it out for them. These were people living in the country. I'm sincere. And that's what she wanted. She said, you know, the Little Rock 9 are not going to have a Christmas. And Jean said, the 70,000 women of Delta Sigma Theta will see to it that they have a Christmas. And she took their shoe size, their pants size, their dress size, their panty size, their bra size, all of that, and put it out to all of the sorors at Delta. So whatever you do at Christmas time, you do one thing for the Little Rock 9. And they did. And we are so very proud of that. And the passing of Jean Noble recently was a great loss, not only to our sorority, but to the American culture, because women like that are rare.
I'm with Andrea, but I also wanted to share with you that we are now 200,000 strong, and so are we still work.
She didn't say that to me because I know. She said that to you all. And we have international branches too. And I'm very proud of the, it's very hard. The Black Greek movement catches a lot of flack from a lot of places because they do foolish things. Recently, of course, the AKAs had this just heart-wrenching problem because of hazing, and a couple of girls drowned, and it is so sad. Of course, there's going to be a big lawsuit, and the AKAs have to pay it off. But the main thing is, why would you do that? And I'm not exempting us at Delta. Why if somebody wants to join you, would the way that you let them have a rite of passage be something as stupid as being tied up going to the ocean? Or the Deltas used to have, you know, we crossed the burning sands for Delta, you had to crawl on your knees and stuff. And you know, like, oh please. People are joining us who don't even know what we stand for. And that's got to stop. Hazing is not a good idea for any of them. It's stupid. It's got to stop. Yes, sir.
Hi, Mr. Giovanni. My name is Giovanni Stillwell, and I just want to applaud you for your writing style. I think it's prolific, especially in today's time as a writer in observation of your works. But I was wondering, is this a dream coming true for you? And what do you think about today's style? If you listen to it, it's a little different than the original format of poems and
I'm a big fan of hip-hop. That's why I have a tattoo that says Thug Life. I mean, it's right there. Somebody said, oh, you know, but it's right there. Right?
Wow.
the slams because I think these are good ideas. It's not what my generation did. And I think that the easiest thing on earth, I'm 59, the easiest thing to forget is that you were once, 20. I wasn't born 59 listening to Mother. Because people always say, like, what do you listen to? Because right now what I'm listening to is Thelonious Monk because I'm an old jazz fan. I'm listening to Mother. That's what I listen to. Yeah, I was lucky because my driver yesterday was a Cassandra Wilson fan. And I hadn't really listened to Cassandra Wilson, but that thing said Traveling Miles. And so it's really, really nice. So, am I going to have, I do listen to Outkast and Arrested Development. I listen to hip-hop according to what my students or I have a son, what they say you should listen. I'm not going to dial around and, because I can't hear and it's hard on me, you know what I'm saying? But then y'all probably feel the same way you listening to Charlie Parker. And we all get like, wow, listen, So it's all weird. My mother didn't like, Little Richard. And she never did understand Ray Charles. She said, how come he stutters? I said, well, he doesn't stutter. But my grandmother, see, and I remember this. I was always a kid that remembered things that people always wonder how come I did. But my grandmother didn't like Billy Eckstine. He said, what's he mean? Jelly, jelly, jelly. And my grandma's like, that's a dirty song. I'm thinking, it took me a long, what's wrong with jelly? Then I realized he was not talking about Welch's grape. But every generation has their thing. So I'm very proud of the kids. I'm extremely happy for Russell Simmons and even old Crazy Puffy. Now I wish that, well, he is. And what you wish they cannot be is that Tupac were here. Because that's true. If Tupac were here, Eminem wouldn't be doing what he's doing. And all we've done, I really dislike Eminem. All we're doing now is watching a white boy turn into Elvis Presley. So we can just put the clock on. He's going to be fat. He's going to be drugged out because he's going to be worth so much more dead than he is alive that he'll be dead soon. And that's a damn shame because if Eminem wants to be a rapper, then he needs to rap about his culture. He needs to tell me why two boys like him would tie a boy like Matthew Shepard up to a fence and beat him to death. He needs to, no, that's the rapper Eminem is. Bring something on that makes sense. Tell me why two crazy boys in Texas would tie a black man named James Byrd to the back of a pickup truck. Don't tell me you're screwing your grandmother because you ain't going to screw your grandmother. Your grandmother can kill you before that'll happen. So don't write those kind of crazy write something that brings home the hatred that you know you experience. Make sense out of this. And somebody said, well, Nikki, that's not you to tell Eminem what to do. But as long as Eminem needs black validation, then black people ought to tell him. You got to come out.
One other question, please, Mr. Giovanni. As you promoted going to Mars as something that you hope that occurs in the future, do you also hope that your prose writing of poetry is continued throughout generations and also...
that's so out of my control that I would be crazy to spend time on it. What I hope is that next year I can get a heritage turkey. I was too much.
An amazing woman, Miss Giovanni. Thank you.
A heritage, she said, a heritage turkey. I have to have an organic turkey, but they have heritage turkeys now. And I'm called too late. And I can go there, But the rest of it, somebody else's. Because it makes you crazy. You sit around, do I look like Ralph Ellison? You sit around worried about what the future's going to look at you. Who said there's a future?
My name is Shiraz Gorman, and I'm a poet. I met you like in the late 90s at Missouri Black Expo. And you have a poem called Cotton Candy on a Rainy Day. I'm sorry, y'all. This is a moment. And that poem has stuck with me to this day because it's amazing to see how everything that you wrote in that poem, we still dealing with now. And to me, that is so sick because I'm 24 years old. This is 2002 and we still dealing with issues from the 60s. And everybody's so far gone, you know, to think that 1968, when them brothers raised their fists, that was only 34 years ago. And I had actually rewrote, you know, a tribute to you on that poem. And I want you to speak on that poem about how you feel that a lot of that is still relevant.
Life is certainly a fragile thing, and for those of you who don't know the poem, essentially life is cotton candy on a rainy day. And what it is, on a rainy day, for those of us who are my age, by the way, we know cotton candy. Okay? Because what they sell now is not cotton candy. It's some oil-based thing that is industrial strength. But in the old days, you know, they would pour the color and the sugar in, and it would go around, it was like that. And they would not sell, I'm from Cincinnati. At the zoo, they wouldn't sell cotton candy on a rainy day, and it intrigued me, and I would say, why? And they said, because it will melt. And my position is, what business is it of yours, how long my happiness lasts? If I just look at it, you know, I gave you the quarter, you give me the cotton candy. You know, how long it lasts is my business. And all I was doing was, in that poem, was delineating the things that don't last, because love doesn't last. Because tomorrow, as the Bible teaches us, is not given. And so all we're trying to do is find a way to make today be somehow lovely. I did wake up the other morning, which I'm so glad. I set my alarm so that I could see the meteor shower. You know, it was so fantastic. I made a cup of coffee and just went out and just like, oh my God, I gotta go. You know what I'm saying? No, I want to do space because everybody's like, oh, you probably won't come back. But see, maybe. No, people never deal with that. I always think you're dead or something. Maybe you just realize, why should I? Well, what did I lose here? You know? And it would just be so super to go up there, you know, so maybe the showers would hit my ship. And maybe I wouldn't come back. But maybe I would go beyond what is known. And for that one moment, see something that I had never envisioned. And it would be worth it. I'm a responsible human being. My son graduated from law school. My mother's in pretty good shape. My dog's a little off-duty, but I try to take her with me. No, Wendy's son, her name was Wendy. Wendy is the only person I would really want. If right now, you know, MasterCard say, Nick, you can go. Who do you want to go with you? Wendy. Because I can count on her. You know, you can't always count on people even if they love you. But I can count on Wendy. And so if I'm going into space, I want a warrior by my side. And I know anything that's going to bother me, she's going to at least bark. So that's what I was trying to do with that poem, just to remind us that there is a fragility. And there's a fragility.
So how do you feel about, like right now, being a young black female, we deal with a lot with the media depicting us as video girls, and just this whole issue with young black women, because back home, I used to work with Metro AIDS, and the most disturbing thing is in St. Louis, we had an 11-year-old girl come up HIV positive. Mm-hmm. She's the youngest. And
I'm sure there are younger girls now.
Yeah. But this was in August. So how do you feel about the oversexed society that we live in as young women? And how can we
that's way bigger than this evening, this moment, tonight, or anything else. And I mean, to be honest, I'm not going to be able to give any kind of adequate answer to that because you get into those cliches and stuff. I'm sorry for any 11-year-old who's HIV positive, but on the African continent, we have people being born HIV positive, and we have the medicine to at least slow down the disease, and we have ways of depicting it. And it's not oversex because sex with an 11, if that child is HIV positive because of sex, that is about control. And I'm so sick of people trying to act like, you know, that's what I just said. That some 11, 12, 13, 15, 16-year-old girl is sexually active. She is being controlled, and sex is a method of that control. That's not a good idea. But it's not a good idea for the men either. And so you say, what should a 24-year-old girl do? You're not stupid. You're not. I mean, I'm not a guru, and you're not dumb. So you know that what you have to do is what you have to do to make it better for whomever you can make it better for. Because nobody can solve the world problems, and it's not going to happen. So we all do the best that we can. 24 is young. I remember 24 as being a lot of fun. And so if you're not having a sex life, I'm sorry, because, you know, 24.
I'm not going to comment on that one.
It's just about, I mean, it's fun. abusing sex. And I get sick of that too. Sex is fun and it should be, and anybody that's not having a good sex life needs to change something. Your partner, whatever you're doing. Because you should be happy, because you're going to reach a point that the most important thing, and then this is what we look forward to. Once you get out of that sex thing, then you get into food. And it's so wonderful. And it's so wonderful. If I had known that food was waiting, I would have gotten out of sex years ago. You do, you get your food and your wine, and you make really good friends that you're never embarrassed to, introduce to your family. Oh, it works. Yes, sir.
Hi, Nikki. I guess you don't remember me. But my name is Thurley Smith.
Oh, sure.
And I was...
We went to Fisk together.
Yeah, we were classmates at Fisk. And I am now...
Warm and genial setting sun. Lights up the hills of golden.
Good mellow here.
There's no more Fiskites in the room. Our alma mater stands.
Yeah, any more Fisk.
Majestic hero of gold and blue. Then hoorah and
Hurrah for the gold and the blue.
Where'er we be, we will still love thee.
Nikki, I'd like to tell you that I am the district coordinator for African American history for Miami-Dade County Public Schools. And Florida is one of the few states, not under this government, but the previous government, that has mandated that African American history must be taught in every grade level and then fused in every subject area. And my job here is to do that. And we have a state task force. And what I would really like to tell you, gee, you get better and better. At Fisk in the, what was that? The International Student Center.
Yeah.
Julius Lester and you.
Yeah.
And the Fisk News. Those were the good days in the 60s. And Marion Barry was there too,
you know, we're starting a scholarship for Leslie Collins, for Dr. Collins. And they put out, I saw Lou Outlaw 3 days ago in Pennsylvania. He was there visiting actually his wife, because, Lou is back. And we are starting this, and we are looking for donations, by the way. Doc Collins, we call him the man who walked through raindrops.
Yeah, I saw Leroy last summer.
Yeah.
I was at Fisk.
And so
he still looks the same, the hat, the shoes, the crease.
He was always, Doc Collins is like 94, 95 years old.
He's right.
He still walks everywhere. I mean, and Doc is so wonderful. He's a Renaissance teacher. He taught English, but he's a Renaissance poet. But he was a minor poet. Fisk, during that period, had Doc Collins, we had Arnold Bontemps, we had Bob Hayden. And we were just so lucky to have Robert Hayden, because Robert Hayden's one of the premier poets of America, And of course, we ultimately had John Oliver Hillers, not to mention John
Singers. They'll be here on the 17th.
Yeah, we had them at Virginia Tech last year. I'm so sorry that the state of Virginia is having a monetary crisis, because we wanted to, we would like to invite them back whenever the governor decides to raise taxes.
What I'd like to leave you with, we're having the Theodore Gibson Oratorical Contest. And all 360 schools are participating.
Good.
And this is the 25th year.
Oh, congratulations.
And we had to retire some of your poems. But keep writing, and
Thank
nice
you so
to see
much.
you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Ms. Giovanni. It's a pleasure to have witnessed you tonight. My name is Mr. Holmes, and I'm from Bay Point Schools. And we brought several of our students out to see you tonight. Just like to understand 14 of our young ones and also your staff. I have a question as far as what was your motivation initially, and what were some of your inspirations, and or who inspired you, and what were some of the obstacles that you had to overcome?
I could recommend some books. I think the biggest influence in my life, of course, is my grandmother, and I grew up with my grandmother. My grandmother reared me. And if I were a scholar, which I'm not, I'm a poet, but if I were a scholar, I think that there needs to be a study on the impact of grandparents, grandmothers, particularly because so many kids that you see now, so many youngsters that I'm teaching at Virginia Tech, right, are being reared by their grandmothers. And you can always tell, I just read their writing, you can always tell the kids who have this grandmother influence from the kids that don't. And I keep saying, you know, for the sociologist or psychologist or something, as I say, any scholar, I think it'd be fascinating. I don't, think that obstacles, people do that, and I don't know why they do that. I don't know why we talk about obstacles, because obstacle is not going to be an obstacle until you get to it and you can't get over it. Otherwise, it's a challenge or a test. Isn't that right? It's an obstacle when you can't do it. So I never think about that. But and then we're going to do, this is going to be the last year, and then this lady, and I never think about that, because what I think about is that you learn something from everything, and I'm not Miss Sunshine. You have to know that. You have to know that there's nothing in my personal life that says, oh, thank you for the opportunity. None of that shit. But you still have to recognize when you can't do something, maybe you shouldn't. So it's best to think before you decide you have to have it. I mean, that's where that is the way I look at it. No matter what I'm doing, if it doesn't work the way I want it to work, I do. I sit down and okay, let me sleep on it, let me go away from it, let me do something else. I'm lucky because I have fish and I have my birds. So whenever, you got to have something that you can count on. And so whenever anything is going really, really bad, everybody knows where they can find me. I'm going to be sitting in the pond because I got this koi. I know it's a girl. And she's really so nice. Because she came to me, she was really smart. I don't know if real smart. She would always hide. I've been trying to gain her confidence, though on the other hand, I don't want her to be so confident in me that she would let any human or something come near, because humans are not nice and, they need to be warned against. But it's always nice to go, well, if you love something, you have to warn them. But it's always nice to go out and to look at her and to relax so that I can ask myself, why didn't this work? And I try to give myself the time. I don't mean overnight or two. You have to give yourself time. Why is this happening? Right? And you do everything you can to make sure you're doing things the right way. But other than that, then maybe this is not for you. I have people that come to me and say, I want to write. And I answer, why? Why? What do you mean, why? You want to write? Well, I want to publish a book. Why? Well, I want to why? Because if it's going to be something that you know that you want to do, you have to love it, and you have to be able to say why you want to do it. Otherwise, you're just playing a game. You just want to be on the cover of Vibe. Okay, that's fine. You can be on the cover of Vibe. Take your clothes off. No problem. And the rest, you know what I'm saying? You have to think those kind of things too. But I'm glad your students came. I wondered who was coming in with the T-shirts, because I'm T-shirt freak, and I was looking, and I was like, wow, that's really nice. And those ladies and gentlemen came in up in there. And I was like, I'll kill them if they move again, because there's a... No, I'm reading the poem, and the light comes on, and so the light was in my eye, and it's like, are you professional or what? So I was proud of myself on that one. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, Dr. Giovanni, I'm a newly minted PhD in business, and I just wanted to get your insight, any pearls of wisdom you could provide us new scholars, new academicians, particularly in the academy, black, female, or whatever the case may be, something that I, as a newly minted professor, can take with me in the classroom as I do my research.
I think the first thing you have to like students. I like all of my students. I think that's important. I teach to 8 o'clock to 9:30 and 11. So I go back to back to back. But my 11 o'clock is my advanced class. So all day long I'm building up. Yeah, I'm not really good in the afternoon, so I never like to teach afternoon classes. If Virginia Tech would let me, I would teach to 6 a.m. or 5:30, something. I love it because I want to catch them first thing in the morning while their minds are still fresh. We get a lot of really nice work. I'm not good at committees, and I never did understand money. No, some people do, but it's not me. So I never let them put me on committees that I didn't like. Right? And everybody's like, Nikki, you're not on committees. And it's like, no, but if you want to fire me, I understand, because I'm not going to do it. Because I'm not. And I spend money because Virginia Tech is rich. And so Virginia Tech gets upset with me because they say, well, you're spending money and that's not in your budget. And it's not. Because there are things that you want your students to learn. There are things that you want your students to see. But last year I got a windfall, and I had this money, like $600-700. And that's not a lot of money, but it was enough for me to buy 2 boxes of Pearl Clay's book. I wish I had a red dress. So that now I can, which I did, now I can give this book to my students so that they can have a gift from me. I figured the students gave me the gift to come into class and listening to me, and so I have something they can take because I thought it was such a lovely book, and I think Pearl is such a lovely writer. So this is just a way of, doing so I can give my book, but that's unethical. Well, it is. You see what I'm saying? You kind of like, damn, she give you that book and you got to read. But this way, then they can read something we can talk about. There's something I can give back. And so what I'm always trying to do is figure out what will help the students to learn. This semester, next spring semester, I teach the Harlem Renaissance. And what I am planning, and this is going to be so fun because right now Virginia Tech does not have any money, and I've been told I don't have a budget, which I just can't believe. But what I'm going to do is a rent party, right? So all we really need to do is rent the building, right? And so that's $75. But then we're going to cook. We're going to make chitlins. We're going to fry chicken. We're going to do that. And we're going to do it in 1920s because that's what I'm trying to teach them. Last time I had a rent party, we made about $600. But I had the budget to cover it because it cost us about $3,000. And so it's... Well, that's because you're doing other things. But so this year, it's going to be a little closer to bare bones. But I think it'll be good for the students because then we get to see how people made it in the 20s. Because the 20s, to those students, some of us remember the 20s. I heard our parents say, to those students, it's just that they don't. I mean, it's just like And you're trying to show them this is what people did. This is how they got along. They went down because we'll be going down to Sam's to buy pig feet, right? And you get the boxes. Then we're going to cook them, and then. It's that kind of thing and I'm just trying to, and then they'll bake up some things because Kroger's has always been a good friend, and they give us cabbage for, the slaw, and somebody will give us cornbread, Wade Brothers, something like that. So everybody kind of pitches in. And what I'm trying to get them to see is this is how people made a way. And if they can learn that, and for my students at least, they learn more. I think for anybody, you learn more through food than you do probably anything else. We did a thing because Virginia Tech is a big international community. It's international whites, which we never think of white people as being international, but they are, as well as international black. No, I mean, we have white people from Ireland, white people from Scotland, and everybody just thinks they're just white, but they're not just white. They're specifically white. And so, I didn't say they're white, but you know what I mean. And so we did a thing, my name and how I got it, right? And as they're reading, because it's just introductory essay and introduction to poetry, 2744. And then it dawned on me, bring a dish, right? Bring in a small sample of the favorite dish of the country that your grandparents or whatever, just bring a dish in. And we invited another class to join us, right? And I'm so glad I did that. I share this because a couple of my students wrote really beautiful poetry about it, but one student, a young lady, said, I thought it was a stupid idea. And I'm always glad when kids feel like they can tell me things like that because obviously we have a good relationship. I thought it was a stupid idea. But when the other people came, when the other students from the other class came and were praising us for what we did, I realized the value of what I had. And I thought, that's great. Because this was a wonderful way. Now, the first time I did chitlins, right? Because I'm the black Americans, I'm going to do chitlins because where else are they going to get them? But the last... Well, they haven't, mostly white kids haven't tasted it. A lot of black kids think they don't like it, but I make really good chitlins. But we did a recent one because the second time I did homemade ice cream. Right? And I presented it because I make excellent homemade ice cream. And I made vanilla. So I said, I said, no, because as all of you know, if you're talking about a cook, it's how you make vanilla that counts. And I presented it because the smell of the vanilla was so wonderful. Because if you go get Breyers, it doesn't smell like vanilla. Right? It doesn't. Or even Harry and Dave and any of them people. It don't smell like Dibby. You have to churn it. And you have to put your vanilla beans in, and kids are like, wow, that smells vanilla-y. So, yeah, it's called vanilla ice cream. And so, again, I'm just trying to teach my students to pay attention. And I feel successful when they bring me back, because we write poetry once a week. When they finally, and I don't mean finally like they did, but when they bring something that says they paid attention, they notice, right? Because that's what you're trying, that's all education trying to teach you. Notice, look around, notice something. Because if you notice it, you'll be kind. It'll become real to you. If you look down and notice the squirrel, you won't hit it. If you drive through campus too fast because you're already late and you're not going to not be late because you're speeding, well, murder the squirrel on your way to what you were late for anyway. Look down. And if you see the squirrel is seeing you. The squirrel is trying to get out of your way. Stop. Let the squirrel live. You'll feel better about yourself, right? Because if you hit the squirrel, you're going to curse the squirrel because you're going to try and make it the squirrel's fault. And it's not the squirrel. Isn't that true? So you're already mad at yourself. Slow down. Let the squirrel live. Then you can say, I let something live today. It lifts you up. Because every day you got to find a way to lift yourself up because life it sucks if you don't. Thank you.
Jennifer, and I'm a senior in high school, and my passion is writing. I love to write above anything else. And last year in my AP English class, I read an essay by some woman who was trying to scare me that said something or other that if you write too much while you're young in your youth, you lose that skill. And it's been haunting me, it's been haunting my dreams every night ever since. And I want to know from you, from your perspective, since you're a writer, if that holds any validity, or if it's completely ludicrous, and I should no longer let it plague me.
Oh my God, that means you're a drugs machine. That doesn't even make sense.
It doesn't make sense.
Practice makes perfect.
That don't even make sense. Yes, ma'am. That doesn't make sense.
Hi, my name is Jackie Early, and I want you to talk to these people about longevity.
That everybody gives me credit for. And the tagline is Lord Black Snow. Everybody says, I love that poem. I always just say, yeah. I used to explain it one night. I thought, what the hell? It is so wonderful. We're going to go do something else. I'm going to go talk to Jack.
Thank you all for coming. Tomorrow evening we have Francine Prose, and on Friday evening we have Daniel Ellsberg here, so we hope to see you. Good night. Drive safely.